dread it, run from it, bargain with it, beg it. None of it matters. Laundry day arrives, all the same. Welcome back to the Golden Maid. Goes nice, but you knew that. You also knew we're on Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. The one thing you didn't know is that today we're revisiting one of the most silly and actually obnoxious decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Eldlich Dragonmaids. This is a really silly deck that I saw somebody else post where they were just using Laundry Dragonmaid to help mill for Eldlich stuff, so you can just try to grind out your opponent. It's a really silly deck. We used it before casually, and I just really wanted to bring it back into the Fusion and Link Festival, mostly because a lot of the Dragonmaid extra deck stuff is Fusion or Link based, and Eldlich basically doesn't use their extra deck at all. There's like one card we could use, Eldlich the Mad Golden Lord, but I don't own that card, and I didn't want to really like go out of my way to have to build this, so it's just like, you know what, forget it. We're just gonna play basically the deck that I already have now. We took out a few cards that didn't matter before, and we added a little bit more interaction in Effect Veiler and the Golden Land Forever, which is a beautiful card, absolutely stunning. And yeah, we're just going to try to grind out our opponents with Eldlich and Dragonmaids, because I saw other people play Eldlich, and I saw other people play Dragonmaids, and I wanted to one-up them. So without further ado, let's get into the games of one of the most hilarious decks. Alright, so our first game in this festival with this deck is a pretty interesting one, mostly because I don't know what the hell my opponent's doing, but we're not there yet. We're going to go ahead and have a pretty standard turn with a hand like this. We're going to set a Dragonmaid. We're going to try to activate the Cursed Eldland to try to do some nonsense with Eldlich. And if we can, we're going to try to get some special summoning nonsense. I don't really have a lot I can do from this position. I probably should have played Nurse face up so I could bounce automatically with Tidying, but I was like, whatever. We're just going to go ahead and do some Gold Glitch stuff. Grab the Conquistador. Throw away the Conquistador so we can get rid of the Eldland, which is going to let us put another Eldlich into our graveyard. We're going to go ahead and put the Tidying in our graveyard so we can special summon our Dragonmaid if we need to. Bring back Eldlich the Golden Lord. Not a fantastic start, but it is something we can do. With the Conquistador, we can set the Eldlixir, so that way we can special summon the other Eldlich if we need to. And then we can go ahead and set something on their turn, and my opponent plays a Phantom Griffin. A legendary monster that dwells secretly in the mountains, fighting with the Harpies over hunting grounds. A single wink beat is said to cause the fiercest storms. Now, why my opponent is playing this, I don't know, but why does my opponent not have an extra deck is an even better question. Anyways, they're going to go ahead and go to Upstart Goblin, which is, you know, perfectly reasonable after you play Nightmare Griffin. They're going to Raigeki to get rid of my Nurse Dragonmaid, but, yeah, no, Eldlich doesn't care. If it's special summon with this effect, it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So, yeah. Thanks for that. My opponent's going to attack into the Eldlich. I'm not quite sure why. I didn't know if this was a bot or what was going on, but I'm going to go ahead and activate the Eldlich. We're going to use the Dragonmaid Tidying just to special summon to chain block in case they've got something crazy, because I don't know what my opponent's up to. We're going to use the Scarlet Sanguine to bring back an Eldlich. And now on this turn we can set another trap. I did do this a little backwards. I did realize finally that I can take my auto chain off and turn it to on. So I'm going to be experimenting with that for a few games. I tried to go over the Dragonmaid Hospitality to special summon the Nurse so I can get the Ernest into the grave, but they Solemn Judgment it, which I didn't expect. So I'm like, you know what, forget it. We're going to attack with two Eldliches. We're going for some big damage. They resummon their Phantom Griffin with Call of the Haunted. And from here, I'm just going to set my Gold Land Forever and pass. So I have a pop and a negate. That requires me to get rid of one of my Eldliches, but it's fine. I thought my opponent was going to evenly me here, and then I was like, oh, well, okay. Go to battle and win? That's exactly what we do. So before we go any further, let's try to find out exactly what my opponent was up to. Because I got nothing. So, you're going to notice that my opponent has a very interesting deck. Now, what my opponent is doing with this deck is a fantastic question. We've got Nibiru, we've got Obelisk, 2 Blue Eyes for some reason, 2 Change of Heart, Heart Bees. Yeah, I don't know what my opponent was up to with this. They're cooking something fierce. Yeah. Let's move on. Alrighty, here we are into our next game here. And this is a more standard hand for this. We have access to Eldlich, we got Chamber Dragonmaid, who is going to get ashed immediately, and I'm like, alright, whatever, man. You go, gamer. Fine, set 3 pass. I got a Veiler, I got a Negate, I got a Bounce, and I have the ability to summon Eldlich to defend my life points. My opponent goes for an Unchained, which is pretty scary, because Unchained can do some nonsense here. They're going to Imperm Dragonmaid? I'm not quite sure why. I'm just going to go ahead and bounce Sarama back to the hand. There goes their entire combo, and that's the end of their turn. And on the end of my turn, at the end of their turn, we're going to swirl it. And they just, yeah, they see Eldlich and they're like, okay, yeah, no, I don't want to deal with that. Even though, in my opinion, Unchained could probably deal with it. But yeah, that's how you stop Unchained. You just flick their cards back into their hand and they give up. We're going first in this game. It's kind of a theme with my games. Fun fact, if you don't go first with this deck, you most of the time just lose. This is a hard go first deck. We don't really have a lot of options going second because of how many traps we're setting. And this is a pretty awful hand. There's really nothing I can do. I can Ash and I can, like, summon Eldlich and that's it. So I'm like, whatever. We're going to play through it. Who cares? I'm playing one of my favorite decks. My opponent is going to immediately use their Royal Lightning Storm. Man, sometimes you're just lucky. And from this position, I'm going to do the only thing I can, which is Scarlet Sanguine here, to go ahead and grab our Eldlich. The Golden Lord is home. We got a Lightning Storm, our Dragonmaid Tidying, and set 1 card and pass. Now, I know my deck's pretty wacky, but I have no clue what the hell my opponent's doing. So I'm going to use the Scarlet Sanguine's Graveyard Effect to grab a Conquistador. We're just going to go in for some damage with Eldlich. And then we're going to set an Impermanent Pass. We've got a pop and 2 Negates, which I think is pretty powerful in this position. My opponent is going to play Link into the Vrains. I have never seen this card until now, but what it does is it special summons a monster, but you negate its effects, and immediately after this effect resolves, you link summon a link monster, using monsters you control as material, including that monster. It can't be negated, and I can't activate cards or effects when a monster is link summoned this way. A crazy card that's going to take them into Magical Musketeer Caspar. Now, I have never seen the Magical Musketeer deck, so I'm very excited for this matchup. But basically, from what I can tell, they are a spell and trap focused column deck, kind of like Mech Knights, but all their monsters are like fiends that are people being demon controlled by guns. So we're going to go from Caspar into Magical Musketeer Max, who gets an animation, which is pretty cool. He's gonna do a level... Oh wait, did that let him... Hold on a moment, that's a level 3. How did he get that? Oh, level 8 or lower. Okay, whoops, I'm misreading cards. So yeah, when this thing is linked summoned, it allows him to grab spells and traps. During either player's turn, you can activate a Magical Musketeer spell or trap from your hand. I guess in response to stuff like a quick play or just trap. So what he's gonna do what my opponent is gonna do from here, I apologize, is they're gonna grab another Caspar, and they're gonna grab a Kid Brave. So this allows them to try to draw some cards, and from this position, I try to Ash their Max, but I can't because of the Link into Vrains. So I'm going to go ahead and try to use Caspar to pop something. My opponent is going to use Max to go ahead and play the Magical Musket Last Stand, which is going to just flat out negate my Conquistador. And I'm like, that sucks. What else can I do here? My opponent's going to try to draw 2 cards. I'm going to go ahead and Ash that. You have gotten enough advantage off of your Magical Musketeer nonsense. And funnily enough, my opponent doesn't really have a lot they can do, except they can just flat out Forbidden Droplet me, reducing Eldlich's attack, and then just walking over him. And although my opponent is pretty much out of gas, I am also out of gas too. There's just not much I can do from this position. My opponent is going to link off Max and Kid Brave into Lina. And from here, I'm like, oh no. no. They're gonna grab Eldlich. I have to imperm this pretty much immediately, because I cannot let them grab my Eldlich. They're gonna go ahead and grab their trap, put it back. I guess I don't know why they left it in their hand. Anyways, I grab a Parlo Dragonmaid. I'm gonna go ahead and just use Parlo Dragonmaid's effect to get lore par. We're gonna set a Hospitality, then we're gonna use Hospitality to resummon our Eldlich, which is one of the really cool parts of the Golden Maids deck. There are so many spells and traps in Dragon Maids and Eldlich that you just have a lot of things to feed Eldlich so we can out-attrition your opponents. Then we're just gonna walk over our opponent's monsters with our gigantic dragon and our absolutely devastating Eldlich. Our opponent is gonna do some nonsense, try to recur some of their cards, put Lina back in the extra deck, go ahead and grab another Magical Musketeer. Lord Par is going to go back. We're going to resummon the Parlo Dragonmaid. I don't know exactly why I did this. I think in case they have like another Lightning Storm, I was like, yeah, just have it in defense. We're going to go ahead and use the Conquistador's effect to set another Scarlet Sanguine. My opponent is going to try to Link Summon into another Max, trying to further generate value, but I'm just going to go ahead and Ash this one. No Link into Reigns to save you now. From this position, my opponent has used their normal summon. They've got a trap that doesn't really do a lot. And yeah, they're just going to scoop from here. A really cool matchup. I'd love to see Magical Musketeers in action again. Maybe even try them out in the future. They seem pretty cool. Alright, so we're going first again, which is pretty strong for us. We're going to go ahead and summon the Chamber Dragonmaid, see if they're going to Ash it. They do not. We grab the Changeover, which is pretty powerful. From this position, we can do a lot of nonsense. We're going to use Cursed Eldland, put the Changeover out of our hand, because we can just recycle it by bouncing Chamber Dragonmaid back. Use Eldlich to get rid of the Cursed Eldland, which is going to get us our second Eldlich. We're going to use the Hospitality, flick it into our graveyard to special summon our now destruction-proof Eldlich. From there, we're going to Dragonmaid crossover. And this is a pretty hard board for our opponent to get past. We have a card that can't be destroyed, and we have a negate, and we have Effect Veiler in hand. And this is why I like this upgraded version of the deck. That little bit of extra interaction we get goes a very, very long way. We're going to use our Dragonmaid Shield to try to special summon a monster. My opponent shows Runic Freezing Curses. I thought I was doing something degenerate with Eldlich Dragonmaids. Runic in the Lincoln Fusion Festival is just disgusting. They're going to use another Runic card, Runic Slumber, to banish 3 of my cards. In my opinion, this is a pretty solid play, trying to banish my resources before I can use them. We're going to go ahead and summon the house, grab the Chamber Dragonmaid, and grab the Tidying. I know that I'm going to need some sort of control options here. I'm going to Effect Veiler this Gradle, because I thought for some reason that they could, like, attack with it and destroy it and then steal my monsters. It was a misplay. Also, I should have remembered that they couldn't go into their battle phase because of Runics. That Effect Veiler was just a gigantic misplay. I'm like, alright, whatever. We're going to try to bounce back our chamber for our changeover. And our opponent uses magic cylinders, which is a card I've never seen before. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's a card they can use, yeah. So we're gonna bounce the Chamber Dragonmaid. We're gonna use House Dragonmaid to pop their card. There's nothing I can do in response to this. I'm just gonna give them the House Dragonmaid. We're gonna use Chamber Dragonmaid to grab the Dragonmaid Hospitality. This is going to give us Earnest back to our field, which is the main reason we did this. Throwing away a Nurse isn't really great in a matchup where your opponent's trying to mill you out, but whatever, who cares? This does give me Earnest so I can get my Shio back. So we're going to have another negate to try to keep pressuring my opponent out of this game, which is the general idea from this position. I'm going to use Eldlich to get rid of House Dragonmaid, get it back in my graveyard. They are going to Battle Fader. I was considering using the Shio negate, but I was like, no, don't do that. There's probably something much more valuable we can get out of it. And plus, I have Tidying in hand, so I can flick cards back on their hand if I need to. So they've got their set Magic Cylinder, which is pretty scary. My opponent is going to use another Runic Slumber. I let this one go this time. I'm like, whatever. They're going to mill now a chamber, tidying, and an effect veiler. I'm losing my control options, but I'm gonna go ahead and use Shio to grab Nurse, which is gonna grab Chamber Dragonmaid. I'm just trying to get the resources I can before my opponent mills them all out of my deck. My opponent is going to go from Battle Fader into Link Karibo, and I'm like, okay, cool. Link this off. I'm gonna use Tidying, put the chamber back in my hand, flick their Link Karibo back to their extra deck, and from here we're just gonna try to get through our opponent's defenses before they stall us out. Go ahead and use the changeover. Put the Nurse back in hand. We're gonna use the changeover to link off the Lorpar and the Nurse, because now I can use Chamber Dragonmaid to get back the Lorpar in the battle phase, and now I have a second negate, so if something happens to this one, on their turn I have another negate if need be. I'm going to go ahead and use Chamber's effect to resummon Lorpar, and from here I feel like I've got just enough damage. I'm going to use all the small monsters first, because I know what they want to Magic Cylinder is one of my Shios. They're going to Magic Cylinder this, and I'm like, nope, we're just going to negate that. I don't want to deal with that. Flick that to the graveyard, get a House Dragonmaid, and from there my opponent scoops it up. And that is how you beat a Runic Stall deck with an Eldlich Dragonmaid deck. Get pwned. Alright folks, before we get into this game, I want you to place your bets, and I want you to ask yourself, what in the world could my opponent be playing in this game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel? Because I almost guarantee you're not going to see half of the cards my opponent plays coming. Well, maybe one or two after you see sequences, but whatever. Just go ahead, go to the comments, write down what you think my opponent's going to play, and then come back up here. Did you do that? Cool. Let's get into one of the wackiest games I've ever played in my life. So we're going to go ahead and use Chamber Dragonmaid. I don't really know what I can grab here, so we're just going to grab Hospitality. Maybe we can use it next turn. And I'm not going to lie, I feel pretty positive about this turn. We've got a Bounce, we've got a Negate with Imperm, we've got a Negate with Ash. This is a pretty solid hand. My opponent starts their turn and plays Hieroglyph? Lithograph. Now, why my opponent is playing this, I'm not quite sure. But okay. They have hand size 7, and then they immediately follow up with Tremendous Fire. At this point, I'm like, okay, so it's like self-DK, maybe? They're losing a bunch of life points. They play a bunch of face-down cards. I don't know why they'd be playing self-DK in the festival, but I'm like, you know what? Whatever. Doesn't matter. I can beat this. I have the out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and use Dragonmaid Tidying, flick a card back into their hand, put my Chamber Dragonmaid back into my hand so I can reuse its effect. We're drawing a kind of nonsense. My opponent is playing Skull Invitation. So at this point, I'm like, okay, this is either like self-DK or burn or something? I'm not quite sure. So we're just going to go ahead and use the Dragonmaid Hospitality. I'm not going to lie, after seeing Tremendous Fire into Skull Invitation, I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know why I used Hospitality. I could have just held onto it in my hand, not taken 300 life points, but it's whatever. Who cares? We're going to go ahead and grab Changeover. We're going to set a Huaquero and pass our turn. Because I don't really have anything I can do from this position, and I don't really know what my opponent is up to. And then my opponent plays Cup of Ace. Now, they did fail because, you know, I'm the coin-flipping Lord of Space and Time, but, yeah. Skull Invitation, Tremendous Fire, Lithograph, and Cup of Ace is my opponent's deck. They're going to go and take some damage. They're going to set a card. I'm like, cool, we're just going to go to Huaquero. Whatever. We get a Nurse. Nurse does not really do much in this position, so I'm going to go ahead and use Changeover to go ahead and get the House Dragonmaid, which is a much higher attack monster, and will hopefully close this game out faster. Go ahead and take 600 life points, take another 300, and I'm like, cool, whatever, who cares? We're going to attack with Huaquero, and my opponent flips Magic Cylinder. Why do I keep running into this in this event? I don't understand. So they're gonna Magic Cylinder, and then my opponent, I think, just has a misclick here with Dimension Wall, because if they would have used this on House Dragonmaid, I would have had about 1,000 life points left, and been in a much worse position. They probably could have burned me out if I played too many cards with Skull Invitation. But my opponent doesn't do that. They do misclick, which is rough, but whatever. So they're on some, like, weird burn deck. and it's doing some pretty solid work, but whatever. We're just going to go ahead and get in there for 3,000. We're both on pretty low life points, but it's fine. I'm going to go ahead and set my Scarlet Sanguine because I've got the life points to spare. My opponent summons Granadora. Now, again, I don't know what my opponent is on here. They've got some self-CK cards. They've got actual burn cards. I don't know what's going on, but I know what I'm going to do. I don't want them gaining life points. I'm just like, no. We're just going to imperm that. I don't know what you're doing. I'm going to chain block it with Scarlet Sanguine. I don't know what kind of nonsense you got going on there, but that's enough. You've had enough weird cooking for the day. So we're going to summon Eldlich, and fun fact, when imperm actually activates and you have an Eldlich trap in your monster zone, it goes back to your trap zone as a face-up trap, which I thought was super cool. The more you know. Also, we turned off Skull of Mutation so we didn't lose more life points. I draw into, like, nothing, so I'm just going to go ahead and use Tidying. I'm going to chain block it with Scarlet Sanguine again. I have no reason not to. My opponent is going to do nothing as I go ahead and set a Golden Land forever. We're going to bring back the Chamber Dragonmaid, which gets us Hospitality, which more importantly is going to let us summon the Nurse Dragonmaid, which puts the Ernest in grave. We're going to take a little bit of damage. We're going to use Changeover to bounce the Chamber Dragonmaid back to our hand, which allows us to pop their Granadora, so they take 2,000 life points. And from this position, I'm like, alright, cool. Here's what I need to do. I'm going to use Changeover with Chamber Dragonmaid and the House Dragonmaid. And from this position, I'm going to summon Shio, because I want to negate in case they have any more silly nonsense. I don't want to deal with it anymore, so I'm going to put everything in attack. Nurse Dragonmaid is going to bounce back to my hand, give me back Ernest, so I have a negate in case I got nonsense. It doesn't matter. Ernest gets in there and ends this wild game versus a very interesting burn deck. Alright, folks, we've seen some wacky nonsense. We've played some off-meta stuff with our Golden Dragon Maids. It's time for an actual challenge for the deck. I'm going to go ahead and give you a minor spoiler for this game. My opponent is using one of the loners. In my opinion, it was the strongest loner of the event. So, let's see how our Golden Dragon Maids can handle an actual Fusion Link meta deck. Mementos! They're going to go ahead and use Anguish, and from here I'm like, nope, I know what that card does. I know that this is the card that I want to ash, because if they get into Tatsu, they're going to get all their cards, they're going to get their 5 negates. I don't want to deal with that nonsense. So we're going to ash their Anguish. And I'm like, nope, this is what I got. I got an Effect Veiler if I need that too. And my opponent, just having their Anguish ash, just like, alright, cool. Well, there goes my entire turn. I'm going to set a card and pass. And now, it's time to do the laundry. Do that laundry. No! My opponent's going to imperm Laundry Dragonmaid. She can't do the laundry now. There's going to be no laundry done today, it looks like. Son of a goat. So we're going to go ahead and do the next best thing. We're going to use Lorpar to... So, allow me to explain what that play was. Because I know in hindsight how bad this looks. I misread Lorpar. I thought that when you used Lorpar, it negated a card's effects. So I pointed it at Anguish, and I was like, yeah, this is fine. I also thought that Lorpar was a level 7 dragon, which was the main point of this, was to get a level 7 dragon in the graveyard so I could trade Laundry for Lorpar. I've completely forgotten this is the level 8 one, because this is for Parlor, and we want Nut Jarl or Ernest for Laundry. And I was like, So at the end of that battle phase, I knew I had immediately made a gigantic mistake, but I was like, you know what? Forget it. We're just going to play it out. Who cares? They got nothing. So from there, we're going to set our Scarlet Sanguine a pass. My opponent is going to go into Gaddock, and before they can go any further, I'm like, nope, no. Effect Veiler. None of that nonsense. They're going to attack into our Laundry Dragonmaid. I don't want them attacking any further, so I'm like, alright, cool. Here's Eldlich. What you got for this? They can't attack with Gaddock. I'm like, cool, this is my deck. You see what I can do now. We're Eldlich Dragonmaids. You can't stop this. So I'm going to go ahead and use Hospitality to grab our Laundry back, and we're going to go ahead and chain block with this with Scarlet Sanguine, just in case they have some nonsense for this. I don't want to deal with it. We're going to set a Conquistador. We're gonna grab that laundry. Time to do that laundry. Da, 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 da. Do that laundry. Da, 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 da. Gonna go ahead and mill, and we're gonna mill the perfect card. Yeah, no, not Parlor. Dragonmaid Changeover are one of them in the deck, because I'm just a god tier gamer like that. Eldlich is gonna go ahead and get in attack mode. Oh, and hey, look, Nut Jarl's here too, because the changeover. Or no, because the hospitality. Hospitality let us special summon Laundry, put Nut Jarl in the grave. We fed our grave very nicely. We're gonna walk over their monsters, put Laundry back out. Laundry does not need to do Laundry again. We're just gonna bounce it back to our hand with the changeover. Play this absolutely perfectly. Use changeover to use Laundry and its dragon form to go ahead and summon Shio. Now Shio is gonna do some damn laundry. You ready for this? We got 2 negates and a pop. Your move, Memento. Also, we're gonna special summon Parlor from the graveyard. We're gonna use Parlor to pitch a Tidying so I can have more special summons. My opponent is gonna try to Tatsu. I'm like, nope, we're not doing that nonsense. No thank you. Get Negate. Flick that crap into your graveyard. We're gonna go ahead and special summon House Dragonmaid. My opponent is gonna try to Memento Base. I'm gonna imperm that. And yeah, my opponent scoops. There's just a point where you just get so interrupted that you just gotta sit there and be like, you know what? You just got it. I got pwned. There's nothing I could do. And yeah, that's how powerful Eldlich Dragonmaids can be. With this version of the deck, we have so much interaction that we can actually deal with a more meta threat like Memento. It's pretty cool. And with that, folks, that's gonna bring our little session with the Golden Dragonmaids in the Fusion and Link Festival to a close. Now, did I crush all of my opponents with this deck? No. And honestly, this deck was never going to go out of the way and spank everybody out of existence. This deck has a lot of flaws. It's very, very weak to going second. It is a very slow deck because Dragonmaids generally want to play one monster at a time, and Eldlich needs to set up its traps in order to get going. So going second is just the bane of this deck's existence, and really does hurt it unless you have really strong interaction pieces like Ash and Effect Veiler and Imperm in your hand. However, I did have a lot of fun with this deck. Going first does really make this deck shine, and because we were on the back half of the event, I believe I had a lot more wacky games, which gave me a lot more of a chance to win and showcase what kind of utter nonsense this deck can get into. And honestly, it's always nice just having a pet deck like this perform at least decently, which I will say this deck did at the very end of the day. Anyways, this is not the last we're gonna see of the Golden Dragonmaids. They will return, but we're gonna let them lie down and take a rest after all the hard work they've done, after all that laundry they had to do. Yeah, geez, look how much laundry is still left over. Good gee willikers. Anyways, thank you for tuning in, folks. I have been the Ghost with Knife. This has been Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. You have been my audience. Now, get the hell out of here.